All right. So, I mean, earlier you asked me which fights I'm most excited about. This is one that actually stood out to me. I don't know a lot about these guys, but when doing my research, I'm like, man, these guys are making a name for themselves and it's going to be a tight one. So I'm actually really excited for this middleweight bout we got here between Antonio Carlos Jr. and Brad Tavares. So one thing I got to mention, man, anytime I see Antonio Carlos' Tapology picture, man, I feel like he's going to rip through his skin and come through the screen. And it's crazy.
Yeah. Man
this
is a
guy's
monster.
Intensity. So yeah, on one hand, we got Brad Tavares here. He's been in the game since 2010, or sorry, in the UFC game since 2010. He has a 17-6 record. He's been around. We've actually seen him fight on 3 different tough finales. Maybe not his season, but we've seen him fight on 3 different finales. And we were supposed to get this actual fight between Tavares and Carlos Jr. here back in March of 2020, but it didn't happen. Tavares, he's lost 2 in a row here. He lost by head kick to Edmen Shahbazyan.
Shahbazyan. Edmen Shahbazyan.
Oh, that's a dope name.
Yeah, it's
so he lost to Shahbazyan back in 2019. He lost to our main man Israel Adesanya in the Ultimate 27 finale. So, that's obviously a tough fight. But this guy's a beast here, man. And on the flip side, we got Carlos Jr. He has a 10-4 record. He's also been around the UFC for about 10 years. So these guys, they've seen it all for sure. He sports a 7-4 record in the UFC, which is actually really good as well. He didn't fight in 2020 at all. He had a couple of canceled bouts, and we actually didn't see him last year. And he's coming 2 losses in a row as well. He lost to Uriah Hall and to my boy Heinisch here in Heinisch.
Every time.
So, this should be a pretty underrated fight. Like I said at the beginning, man, I have no idea which way this one's going to go.
Well, I got a lot of fun things to talk to you about right now. I really do. So Antonio Carlos Jr. is actually someone who won the heavyweight division tough, I believe, for Brazil on the same one that Warlley Alves fought on, who we're actually going to see fight very shortly. So interestingly enough, he actually had such a good run, and then a lot of canceled bouts, and then the 2 losses kind of threw him off his game. And to be honest, these 2 guys were supposed to fight almost a year ago before the pandemic hit, and then he had another canceled bout before getting this fight in 2021. So unfortunately for Antonio Carlos Jr., it didn't really work out. But in terms of Brad Tavares, Edmen Shahbazyan is actually a very, very promising fighter. The Derek Brunson fight, actually, I did bet against him, and he was a massive, massive favorite. It's just funny because that's the perfect example of where the veteran just you have to kind of give him a little bit of bump, right? He's just seen a lot of stuff. And like we fast forward to this, right? I got to tell you something, man. 2021 Pies, if you looked closely at that Israel fight, can you see the date? Do you have it open? If you don't, I can tell you the date.
And I believe it was in 2018, but no, I don't have the date.
That's okay. So it's 2018 in July. Do you remember what we were doing 2018 July?
I mean, I'm going to assume we were in Vegas.
Oh, we were in Vegas. Black Beast, my boy. Anyway, so let's get right back to it. Yeah, we were definitely in Vegas. And my boy Pies in 2018 just wasn't the diehard he is today, and unfortunately missed watching Israel go to town in that fight and set up what is currently one of the best title runs we've seen today. So moving forward, I can guarantee that most of the fights I go to live, when the time comes, are probably gonna be with Paisane. But at that time, unfortunately the people around me were sleeping too, so it's not like anyone was like keeping me company or nothing. But at the end of the day,
your boy was keeping me very entertained in the meantime.
I know about the stories. Moving on. Actually, long-term, short-term, we don't know, but that's actually a very, very great time to pitch potentially the podcast that we are going to start. But for now, we're going to keep that aside. Getting back to the fights, I really, really like that both fighters are getting the opportunity to come back. I think Antonio Carlos is obviously going to have a huge advantage if the fight hits the ground. Brad Tavares has to beat the cardio. I think Antonio Carlos Jr. looks really good towards later rounds, especially for a bigger fighter. And when you've got a guy that's kind of fought at heavier weights and is able to cut down and kind of get to a healthy weight, when it comes to, almost 2-3 divisions. I think he's fought at different levels. So and he's a jiu-jitsu fighter. Like, these are things that he's very much used to, this is his lifestyle. So I just think that in that case, if his striking can keep up and he doesn't kind of take too many blows from Brad Tavares, who is going to be looking for that kind of shot, he has lost by knockout in his last fight, but we're talking about really good strikers. His last 2 fights are against a good boxer in Edmen Shahbazyan and, a very, very good MMA kickboxer in Israel Adesanya. So I think this is going to be a very tough fight to call when you think about the strengths and weaknesses and just how long these guys have been at the game.
Yeah, that's what my initial thought was as well when looking at this. Like, man, no line would surprise me here, and then no outcome would surprise me either. So let's dive right into that line. What's your guess here?
I have to just give the edge to Antonio Carlos Jr. I think he just has a little bit more to his name. I think he has the edge in terms of just overall skill. I mean, I think Brad Tavares has that puncher's chance without question, because Antonio Carlos Jr. cannot even, he doesn't land even 2 strikes, per minute. Like, that's a pretty low number, 1.91 for the weight class and things like that. And he's got pretty good defense. So, that's where I think he's going to be able to get some edge. And, even with Brad Tavares' 77% takedown defense, I think Antonio Carlos Jr.'s style of grappling and takedowns might prove to be something, especially if he's able to kind of, get him against the fence, execute some takedowns in that way. That's where you don't want a guy like Antonio Carlos Jr. starting to get octopusy on you. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it's just getting a little too close for comfort. Brad Tavares needs to use some kicks, needs to keep him at bay. And I think if Brad Tavares waits for that right time to maybe land that right punch on a guy like Antonio Carlos Jr., who has spent some time away, who might be a little rusty, you never know what happens. So,
absolutely. So your final line here
is going to be Antonio Carlos Jr. at a minus. I can't do the minus. He can't be a minus 200 anymore. I think if it was a year ago, I would have given him the minus 200 line and higher, but I just can't do that right now. So I'm even on a Vegas level, I think he cannot be higher than a minus 200. So I'm going to give him minus 190. Antonio Carlos Jr.
All right. So Brad Tavares is actually the favorite here.
Okay, I can accept that.
He's a minus 155 favorite. And if I look at the live line, it is dropping. It's a minus 138. I would not be surprised if this was a pick'em right close to the fight.
I'm very much enjoying the juice on Antonio Carlos Jr., my man.
Absolutely. Yeah, in a coin flip battle, you're going to take the odds all day. He's a plus 110 right now. So, stay tuned for that one. But it looks like we might be sprinkling on Carlos Jr. here. So that was an absolute treat. That wraps up UFC 257. Enjoy the card this weekend, guys. It's going to be a real treat. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe, hit that bell button. Make sure you give us a follow on Instagram, Twitter. All our information is below. And yeah, it's going to be a good one. Anything else you want to touch on, Siraj?
Happy birthday to the GOAT. Peace.
Later, guys.